Hello, I am Sonia Moran Panero, and I am one of the course leaders in the Decolonizing English Language Teaching MOOC. And it has been a great pleasure to learn about you guys and discuss and chat with you in the comments so far.
Hi everyone, I'm Will Baker and I'm also one of the lead educators on this course. And I'd just like to add my thanks as well to everyone for sharing their thoughts over the week. I've really enjoyed reading your ideas, your experiences, and I'm looking forward to finding out more as well.
Hello everyone, I'm Amina Leshkab and I'm one of the course facilitators. So welcome everyone and thank you for joining us in this course. We're quite happy and thrilled to have such a diverse and insightful group of participants with us. So as I said, thank you all for joining us and sharing your valuable insights and reflections throughout the week. It was fascinating to see the depth of background knowledge that you bring, as well as the diversity in the context and programs you represent. So you have shown creative approaches to reflect on practices in your current teaching settings, such as EAP classes, where traditional pedagogies often prevail, and working within settings that include a group of Indigenous students was incredibly inspiring. So it's exciting to see how you've begun to explore the possibilities of implementing decolonial ideas in your work. Some of you raised thoughtful questions about where and how to begin. So hopefully the suggestions that we myself and other colleagues, course facilitators, as well as participants shared, could help you and provide you with a helpful starting point on how you can implement those ideas in your own context and teaching settings. Additionally, initiating these conversations with your own communities could further enrich your journey. Thank you again for your engagement and curiosity, and it's a pleasure to learn and grow together.
Okay, yes, and just to add that I was also very impressed with the depth and range of comments. And so it's actually quite hard when you do an end of week summary to pick any particular things to focus on, because there's been so many interesting things.
Yeah.
But I mean, one thing for me that really I found quite interesting was I was looking at the poll results, and it seemed that the majority of you still felt that English was a colonial language for a whole range of reasons, which I think we'll discuss in a minute. But on the other hand, when we had the poll on the kind of role of English, so whether it was empowering or disempowering, there was more of you went for the mixture of empowerment and disempowerment. And it was interesting that hardly anybody went for English being just disempowering, despite seeing it as a colonial language. So I thought there was a very interesting juxtaposition there. And so, yes, I think it would be interesting to explore in more depth why we have these kind of different perspectives on English, which I think many of us have and many researchers also follow.
Yeah, actually, I agree with you, Will, in the interesting results in the polls. You were mentioning the one around whether English is seen as a colonial language or not, and how most people still agree it is. And then actually looking at the comments underneath the poll itself, it was really there was really rich discussion and a lot of nuance, basically. So it showed a great deal of awareness among the colleagues that are joining us in the MOOC, which again, I have also been very impressed by. Clearly, we've reached colleagues that are very committed and very interested in this topic, and I hope we will continue to reach more and more colleagues as well. But yeah, it was great to see how a lot of people had great awareness, obviously, not only of the historical colonial British Empire and the imposition of English, but some of them were commenting on how we can still consider English as a colonial language because it's still being imposed on people in certain contexts. Normally, we refer to this as the gatekeeping role of English, right? In some cases, they considered that English was still colonial because of native speakerism ideas being very dominant and the fact that there's still a lot of discrimination around different or diverse ways of using English in the world. And there was a lot of comments around accents and how, you know, there should be more respect of diverse accents, etc., which was great to see. But obviously, as we go into week 2, we will see that we can also go way beyond accents as well. We can talk about representation, we can talk about identities in different ways, and we can even go beyond accent into other types of linguistic levels, like what happens with grammar and what happens with other aspects of English diverse use. So yeah, it was just really, really nice to see how deeply people have been thinking about this. And we hope, yeah, it can be informative and motivating and inspiring for them. So please keep commenting, keep sharing with us.
Yeah.
Yes, and I just wanted to add as well that something I was also noted from this week, which I think leads very nicely into the next week, is many of you were already thinking about how some of these things might affect or influence your current classroom practices. So as you were just saying, Sonia, one of the ways would be to introduce more accents and more diversity in English use. I think some of you also mentioned the idea of finding out more about students' backgrounds, and Amina, that was something you just mentioned as well, the fact that there are Indigenous students and minority groups in many of the settings that you teach in, and just recognising how that may influence how they approach English or education in general. So it was great to see that, you know, you're already engaging in what this might mean for your teaching practices. I suspect some of you have been engaging in this maybe for longer than we have, so we're looking forward next week to finding out more about that. And at the same time, I think it's also important to recognise that these can be quite challenging things to do sometimes. And we do recognise that in certain environments, you know, it's not always easy to make changes, and there might be quite a lot of resistance to challenging some of the kind of hegemonic, I can't even say that word now, it's getting to the end of the week, but some of the dominant discourses and challenging some of the power structures that are already there. So an important point I think that needs raising is that when we do kind of decolonial pedagogies, it's important to do them in ways that work in your settings. So, you know, there's no point in trying to change everything at once. We all work in the ways that are appropriate to the settings we find ourselves in and the particular kind of political climates we find ourselves in as well. So it's, you know, it's always a balancing act between what we can practically do and then maybe what we want to do is perhaps not quite the same as what we actually can do. And I think that's something we all have to juggle with. So it was interesting to see lots of you reflecting on those kind of dilemmas and challenges as well. And that's something that we're going to go into in more detail in week 2 too. So I guess overall, just really to say thank you very much, everybody. And we'll look forward to seeing you in week 2.
Likewise. See you in
Thanks,
week 2.
everyone. See you week 2.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Adios.